safe to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Today's webinar has been pre-approved for one HRCI recertification credit, as well as one SHRM professional development credit. In order to receive credit, you must remain on the call for the entire duration of today's webinar. And you do that, we will send you a certificate of completion via email within 2 to 3 business days. In addition, we have muted all phone lines in order to eliminate background noise. If you have any questions during the presentation, please put those into the chat function, and I will address as many of those as I can at the end of the presentation. My name is David Lindgren. I am the Senior Manager of our Compliance and Public Affairs Divisions at Flexible Benefit Services, and will be your presenter today. Today is going to cover our report and analysis on flexible spending accounts, health accounts, as well as health reimbursement arrangements, various trends and predictions, as well as compare some of our results to other surveys that have been done in the marketplace. Just background information about our company. Our official name is Flexible Benefit Service Corporation, but we go by Flex for short. We are located in Rosemont, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. We have approximately 100 employees, and we were founded in 1988, celebrating our 27th year in business. We operate with 3 primary business divisions. We are a third-party benefits administrator. We operate as an insurance general agency at a wholesale level, working with approximately 5,000 independent insurance brokerages throughout the country. And we also operate our own private exchange marketplace. I'm not going to elaborate on all of our business divisions, but I do want to point out some information about our third-party benefits administration department. According to Business Insurance Magazine, we are the 9th largest benefits administrator in the country. So although we only have 100 employees, we do a great deal of technology efficiencies that allow us to operate at a larger scale. We serve cafeteria plans, flexible spending accounts. We have our own proprietary health savings account. We administer health reimbursement arrangements, as well as providing other services such as COBRA administration to employers with as few as 2 employees to as many as 30,000 employees. Gears here and get into the core topic of our presentation today. I just want to start off by talking about some current market conditions that are going on. Health insurance, in particular major medical coverage, has been very challenging for many employers over recent years, even prior to the Affordable Care Act. Rising insurance premiums, challenges with deductibles, coinsurance, copays, challenges with identifying the appropriate network for employees, as well as the insurance company potentially. And since March 2010, there have been some significant additional pressures that really the Affordable Care Act has weighed in on employer-sponsored health care coverage, creating some challenges for many employers and plan sponsors in determining how to best combat the rising cost of health care while still providing a quality, valuable health insurance plan to employees and their family members. So we've seen, again, this is even prior to the Affordable Care Act, but the Affordable Care Act really enhancing the shift of trying to better engage employees in a cost-sharing process. The process that's believed amongst many is that without this cost-sharing process, there'd be potentially an overutilization of medical services or employees receiving unnecessary medical services because they're not aware of the actual cost of a certain procedure. And by shifting some of the cost to them, it creates more price transparency, which would engage that employee and make them a smarter consumer of their health care services. And ultimately, the goal with this is that benefits are being utilized and being provided with great value to not only the employee but also to the employer as an attempt to control their costs. Being a little more on the current market conditions, we here at Flex refer to FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs as consumer-driven accounts or CDAs. Sometimes people refer to them as account-based health plans, or sometimes they're referred to as consumer-driven health plans, or there may be some other names out there. But for purposes of our presentation here today, I'm going to refer to them as consumer-driven accounts or CDAs, and really emerge, and more so now than ever, as a key strategy for both employers and employees to come to rising healthcare costs because of some of their preferred tax treatments. The accounts really do encourage employees to make much more informed healthcare decisions and reinforce the importance of cost shifting. So just as an example, when it's the employee's money, there's an incentive to save that money or use it as the most effective way from a cost perspective. An employee, again, using an example, purchase a generic drug versus a more expensive brand name drug because it is their money and it's more economical to do it that way. Now, just to give you a quick overview, I'm sure many of you are familiar with the different types of consumer-driven accounts, but just want to give a 30,000-foot view of what each of the different accounts does and the different features of them. First account we refer to as a healthcare flexible spending account, or a healthcare FSA, sometimes just referred to as an FSA. This gives employees the ability to pre-tax money into an account and use that money to offset out-of-pocket medical expenses. The maximum amount that can be contributed this year is $2,550, although employers can set lower thresholds if they so desire. Eligible expenses are generally determined by the IRS under Code Section 213D. Generally speaking, most medical expenses that are covered by a health insurance plan, such as expenses that would count towards a deductible or co-insurance or a copay, would be considered an eligible expense, as well as some other medical expenses not covered by the health plan, such as dental and vision care. These are actually owned by the employer, and it is not portable. There are some COBRA requirements, some limited COBRA requirements, if an employer or an employee were to lose access to the coverage, typically as a result of a job loss. The flexible spending account has what we call a use it or lose it rule with limited rollover provision. So only up to $500 can be rolled over from one year to the next, and above and beyond that, the IRS requires those funds to be forfeited. The nice flexible spending account is it can be paired with any health insurance plan, whether it be a low deductible plan, a high deductible plan, an HMO plan, a PPO plan. It can be used with any health plan. Moving to the health savings account, or an HSA, this is an account that is actually owned by the employee and can be funded with either employer dollars or employee dollars, or a combination of both. This does also set the eligible expenses under IRS Code Section 213D. The benefits of a health savings account is that there is no use it or lose it rule. So any unused balance carries over to the next year, and the account can virtually grow to an unlimited amount. The savings account, in order to be eligible to open and make or receive contributions to the health savings account, must be used with a qualified high deductible health plan. So there is a particular type of health insurance plan that it must be paired with. The reimbursement arrangement, also known as an HRA, this is an account that is owned by the employer and can only be funded by the employer. Eligible expenses, the at least maximum amount of eligible expenses are defined under IRS Code Section 213D, but oftentimes employers set limits as to what those expenses will be eligible, such as possibly only reimbursing a deductible expense or only reimbursing a co-insurance expense. Again, this is an employer-owned account. It's not portable other than under law by COBRA. The employer gets to determine whether or not balances are rolled over from one year to the next and possibly how much is rolled over. And the nice thing also about a health reimbursement arrangement is it can be paired with any type of health insurance plan, both low deductibles, high deductibles, HMOs, and PPOs. To really gather some data and figure out trends and what's going on in the marketplace, survey sent a survey out to several thousand employers, and we had more than 500 employers respond. And we were really looking to understand how many employers are offering these types of plans, and how does this differ based on employer size, and really what the expectations are in the future for these accounts, which plans will be popular, which plans may be less popular, and so forth. And that's the data we want to share, so you can compare that possibly with the coverage you have with your employer. So now into our actual survey findings, and as we go through this, as I mentioned previously, I'm going to do some comparisons to some other surveys that have been out there to see if we're in line or if there's any discrepancies. The first thing I want to point out is the differences in which employers are offering which plans. So we simply asked, do you offer an FSA, do you offer an HSA, and do you offer an HRA? An overwhelming majority of our survey respondents offered an FSA to their employees, a healthcare FSA that is, with 90% of employers responding. So approximately 450 out of the 500 respondents indicated that they offer an FSA to their employees. About half, 44% of our respondents indicated that they do offer a health savings account or an HSA to their employees. And at a distant third, about 20% of survey respondents indicated that they offered an HRA to their employees. So definitely some discrepancies there in which plan seems to be the most popular offered to the employees with the FSA at such a significant offer rate. Now, we wanted to take it a step further after asking, do you offer an FSA, HRA, HSA, to see which employers are offering a combination of these health plans. We had about 47%, about half, indicate that they only offer an FSA to their employees. We asked who offers an FSA and an HSA. Now, in some circumstances, or any circumstances, I should say, an employee cannot be enrolled in both an FSA and an HSA, but they may be offered the choice between one of the two. The only exception to being allowed to enroll in both is if the FSA was designed to be what we refer to as limited scope in nature, only reimbursing expenses for dental, vision, and preventive care. So that was the second most popular option, offering a combination of one or both. Sort of a similar take rate between employers that offered an FSA as well as an HRA, employers that just offered an HSA, or as well as employers that offered all three plans, an FSA, HSA, and an HRA. So one thing to point out is that none of respondents indicated that they offered a standalone HRA. So in any circumstance that HRA was offered in combination with an FSA and or an HSA. We then wanted to again take this, dive a little deeper and take this one step further and figure out what are the differences in employer sizes. Are there any marked discrepancies between smaller employers versus medium employers versus larger employers? And the key thing that we found in our survey results was that standalone FSAs had highest offer rate across all group sizes, both small and large, and definitely a noticeable spike with employers that had roughly 100 to 500 employees. A couple other observations that we made from the respondents was that standalone HSAs were very popular in the smaller group segments with employers that only had 2 to 100 employees. And again, as I indicated earlier, none of our respondents offered a standalone HRA. It was always offered in combination with one or both of the other consumer-driven accounts. Now, just sort of elaborates a little further into larger employers and what the offer rates were. And, as you can see, some similar statistics as what was indicated on the previous slide, with FSAs still sort of leading the way as being the highest offer rate amongst employers. And that pretty makes sense since FSAs have been around the longest. I want to switch gears a little bit here and, again, talk a little bit about identifying some trends that we found in our report here today. I want to start by giving you a little bit of background information about the adoption curve. And, our research indicates that consumer-driven accounts on the whole are very popular with employers of all sizes. Definitely is a marked difference amongst the three different plans that we studied, the FSA, HRA, and HSA. We decided to use the adoption curve as part of our analysis and really looking into market penetration for each of these plans. And, when we talk about it at an employee benefit level, when a new type of employee benefit is introduced, it usually takes a number of years for it to fully penetrate the market. And believe that the adoption curve provides us a very useful way to really put employers into 5 different segments, and segments being innovators, adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. And those 5 segments you can see are broken down in the diagram that you see on your screen. Now, I want to talk about sort of the adoption curve as it relates to each type of consumer-driven account. And the first one I'm going to talk about here is the flexible spending account, or the FSA. And really, if there's one thing that we believe is clear from our survey results, it's that employers have truly embraced FSAs. And as you saw from some of our stats already, only 10% of our survey respondents did not offer an FSA in some combination or another. And, that would really lead us to believe that the FSAs have almost reached full market penetration today. The Society of Human Resource Management, also known as SHRM, they surveyed back in 2013, and that survey indicated that 72% of employers that they surveyed offered a healthcare FSA versus the 90% that we surveyed. And in fact, their data also indicated that the offer rate has remained fairly steady over 5-year time periods, and the offer rate from 2013 was actually only 1% higher than it was in 2009. So, again, we came up with a 90% offer rate, and just years ago, SHRM came up with a 72% offer rate. And we think that the increase in the offer rate can be attributed to some recent legislative changes. And FSAs, believe it or not, have been around since the 1970s. Probably didn't have a high adoption rate back then. The FSA, design, the limits, the structure, the regulations really virtually remain unchanged up until the passage of the Affordable Care Act in 2010. And the Affordable Care Act brought with it the statutory limitation, which I indicated was $2,550 for 2015, and limited access to over-the-counter drugs unless there was a prescription. And some of these limiting effects with the new regulations, we did not see any decrease in popularity of FSAs. We believe it was the modification of the use it or lose it rule that is responsible for the spike in the FSA offer rate, in that 72% number that SHRM saw in 2013 and the 9% number that we're now seeing here in 2015. And on Halloween in 2013, the IRS released some guidance indicating that employers could now a rollover of up to $500 of unspent funds into the next plan year. Really, this unprecedented change allow employers to amend their current plan year, so their 2013 plan year, to include this new provision or adopt it in future years. And this new provision has really seemed to be very popular with employers already offering FSAs or those that are implementing them. And actually, as a third-party administrator for thousands of FSAs offered by employers throughout the country, we have seen 95% of our employers incorporate the rollover provision. And that rollover provision not previously allowed prior to 2013. So the use it or lose it rule has really been viewed as almost a barrier to entry. Employers not wanting to offer a benefit to employees that they potentially lose if they didn't use, and employees not wanting to participate because of that use it or lose it rule as well. So it really seems to only make sense that the recent modification made to flexible spending accounts has become more attractive to employers, and that's why we feel there's been this significant uptick in the offer rates. So quite information there, and I have quite a bit of information more as well about health savings accounts or HSAs. So FSAs have been around since the 70s. HSAs really first came to life in 2004, and they're really steadily moving towards the top of the adoption curve that I mentioned a few slides back. And we're seeing more employers adopting this benefit each year. Going back to that 2013 SHRM survey, that SHRM survey showed there's been some steady growth with adoption rates, with 32% of employers offering HSAs to 42% over a 5-year time period. And so that 2013 survey showing SHRM showing 42% offer really compares very similarly to what we are seeing. Survey results indicated 44% of employers are offering an HSA. And we also took a look at another survey that was done by Mercer, and that Mercer survey is showing a great deal of growth amongst larger employers, with an offer rate doubling between 2009 and 2014 at larger employer segment. Really, another factor that we see as a major contributor to the increase of health savings account offer rates is the growth in private insurance exchanges. I'm not going to get too much detail about what private exchanges are, but at a high level, they're an online marketplace that gives employees access to a variety of health plans and are most commonly funded with a defined contribution approach, whereby employers give a set or fixed dollar amount to employees. Employees can then use that money towards the purchase of coverage, buying up or down in benefits. Since the introduction of the Affordable Care Act, the new employers offering a private exchange option has significantly grown. We took a look again using other surveys that are out there. One that was done by Accenture that reports about 6 million people today receive coverage through a private exchange in one way, shape, or form, and that doubled from 2014 to 2015 from 3 million to 6 million. And that Accenture report also speculates that about 40 million people are going to be receiving coverage through a private exchange in the future by 2018. Really, as employees enjoy, we'll call it increased freedom in being able to choose their own health plan through a private exchange, more are opting for the HSA-compatible health plans. Because keep in mind that HSA is required to be coupled with a qualified high-deductible health plan, unlike FSAs and HRAs that can be paired with any type of health plan. We took another look at a report from Aon Hewitt from 2013, and that Aon Hewitt report said those of the private exchange enrollees, almost 40%, it was actually 39%, selected an HSA-compatible plan, as opposed to 12% that selected one if they were offered coverage outside of a private exchange. So more than triple the HSA take rate when using a private exchange. We really believe that the funding structure that's most commonly used with private exchanges, the defined contributions, really give employees an economic incentive to enroll in that type of plan because a high deductible health plan will usually have a lower premium. And we believe that we're going to continue to see some significant HSA growth as more and more employers migrate to private exchanges. So that, again, was a bit of information there. And, of course, have some more here about the health reimbursement arrangements, or the HRAs. And HRAs really first started to appear in the employee benefits scene in the late 1990s. They weren't officially recognized by the IRS until 2002. And, based on our survey results, they were really a distant third in the offer rate. And they really seem to be very popular with small businesses and very larger businesses. So any mid-sized business didn't see a substantial number of people offering the HRAs. And that response really seems to fit with the trend that we see as a benefits administrator. First, by talking about smaller employers, we oftentimes see them use an HRA as a way to self-fund a portion of the deductible. So they might enroll or offer a higher deductible health plan, offset either the front end or the back end of the deductible. And that allows them to lower premium costs while still giving employees what would perceptually be a rich benefit plan. And then in the larger employer market space, we see a lot of employers using HRAs as a primary vehicle for a retiree benefit plan, really giving employees the ability to purchase their own individual insurance plan if they're under age 65, or a Medicare-based plan such as a Medicare supplement or Medicare Part D, and doing that with tax-free dollars. And it's likely that mid-sized employers have a lower offer rate of HRAs because the mid-sized employer will oftentimes self-fund the entire health plan and have a lower occurrence of retirees, which really makes them more unique and I'll call it less attractive for a mid-sized business. HRA can be really a very useful tool for we believe certain employer groups. Current industry data does not support a whole lot of growth with HRA offer rates. Back to that SHRM 2013 state, it actually shows a decline in popularity, with the total offer rate dropping from 26% to 19% from the year 2009 to 2013. And similarly, we took a look at that Mercer study that showed HSAs growing more than 200% amongst larger employers over the last 5 years, and also showing that HRAs have remained fairly level over that same time period. Only 10% of larger employers offering this benefit as of 2013. We strongly believe that the recent surge in HSA offer rates is at least partly responsible for the lack of growth in the HRA marketplace. Employers might be replacing an HRA with an HSA. As HSA popularity grows and their tax advantages are becoming more widely publicized, employers may be seeing HSAs as the more favorable choice for their employees, and employees may also see it that way as well. Not to say that HRAs have outlived their usefulness. We definitely still see a trend amongst certain employer types, again, those smaller employers, as well as larger employers offering retiree benefits. But it really is going to indicate at a level based on what we're seeing as an administrator, based on what our survey results and other survey results are showing, is they seem to become more of a niche product, not necessarily a mainstream product like HSAs and FSAs. And I want to show some examples here of the Mercer survey results and showing HRA-based health plans and HSA-based health plans. And you can see the blue line being the HRA, the offer rate has remained not necessarily steady, but pretty close to steady being around that 10% line. But you can see HSAs from 2009 to 2013 going from 14% to 32%, some pretty dramatic growth there. Some projections for you here, and really you want to talk about the future of consumer-driven accounts and where we think offer rates may go, and that is impactful to any certain market sizes. But I want to talk about a very significant provision of the Affordable Care Act. It's commonly referred to as the Cadillac Tax. And how this Cadillac Tax may impact FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs. I want to point out that the Cadillac Tax will not become effective until 2018, but employers are definitely thinking about potential benefit changes to reduce or avoid this Cadillac Tax now. And really the purpose of the Cadillac Tax is to incentivize employers to offer a health plan where there is some cost sharing to the employee. And that's largely because there is a belief, whether it's a correct belief or not, there is a belief amongst regulators that if an employee has a very rich benefit plan with low out-of-pocket expenses, that employee will overutilize medical services or receive unnecessary medical treatment, and that resulting in rising medical costs year after year. And so what the Cadillac Tax is doing is setting a threshold, a threshold being a dollar amount. If the dollar amount of the value of coverage hits a certain level, the amounts above and beyond that dollar amount are going to be subject to an excise tax. An excise tax is 40%. The values of coverage, at least as set in stone today, are $10,200 for an employee that's just covering themselves, has single coverage, and $27,500 for an employee that's covering themselves plus one or more family members. Now, those numbers seem like big numbers when we look at them, but if we take into account the cost of a health insurance plan today on average, when we take a look at just the major medical coverage for a single person is running around $6,000 per year, and major medical coverage for family is running around $17,000 per year, according to some statistics from the Kaiser Family Foundation. Those values that you see are going to be indexed for inflation, so they will slightly rise from one year to the next. But when we look at a Towers-Watson survey, we're seeing almost 3/4 of employers that are really concerned about triggering the tax. And 62% are indicating that will have at least some degree of impact on their healthcare strategy, not in 2018, but in 2016. And also some information shows that about half of employers are likely to trigger the tax in 2018. So we've got some serious concern here, especially almost all employers by 2023 triggering the tax absent any changes or modifications to the Cadillac Tax. I'm taking a look at the Mercer Survey. For about a third of employers, 31%, are indicating some concerns over this excise tax, and that influencing their decisions not this year, but last year. What we see as a way to sort of address this concern for the Cadillac Tax is introducing a consumer-driven health plan or a consumer-driven account. Also some other options, expand health management programs, potentially dropping a higher cost health plan, so usually a lower deductible health plan, trying to unbundle dental and medical plans, so separate dental from medical, as well as making some other changes. Now, the value of coverage, the $10,200 for single, $27,500 for family, the coverage is going to be more than just the major medical coverage. It's all going to include FSA, HSA, and HRA amounts. So when we take a look at the healthcare FSA, both employer and employee contributions are going to be included in the value of coverage. When we talk about the health savings account, any contribution that's made by the employer will be rolled into that value of coverage. And most employers that offer HSA allow employees to pre-tax via a payroll deduction contributions on their own. If the employer is allowing payroll deduction into the HSA, then those payroll deduction amounts roll into the value of coverage. And I'm going to refer to it as the quote-unquote value of a health reimbursement arrangement. That's also going to be included into the Cadillac Tax thresholds. I say the value of coverage because preliminary guidance suggests that the value that needs to be included into the Cadillac Tax thresholds not necessarily be the annual maximum reimbursement amount, but will probably be something that's more so based on past utilization. So as an example, if there was a $1,000 HRA amount, but employees on average only access $300 on that, then $300 would be the amount that you'd roll into the Cadillac Tax thresholds. So taking into account that rather significant component of the Affordable Care Act, we're making some what we believe educated guesses on the audits and what may happen to FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs. And we really do believe that FSAs will sustain. I don't think there will be a significant drop rate there. But employee enrollment rates into FSAs may decline as we find HSAs as a more attractive option because those HSAs have unlimited amounts that can be rolled over and because they have higher contribution rates. We don't think that the Cadillac tax is going to have a lot of impact on the number of employers that are offering FSAs, but if there is a concern about hitting those Cadillac tax thresholds, we may see some employers lowering the maximum employee election. So from a statutory standpoint, today, the maximum amount that can be salary reduced into an FSA by an employee is $2,550. Some employers may set those thresholds lower in order to circumvent or reduce the impact of the Cadillac tax. Standpoint, we believe these plans are going to surge. We predict that the HSA offer rate is going to increase significantly, as well as the number of employees that are going to enroll in a qualified high-deductible health plan that's coupled with an HSA. Some industry experts that are out there are predicting that about 45 million people are going to be covered by an HSA within the next 5 years by 2020. And again, going back to those private insurance exchanges that I discussed previously, we think that there's going to be some significant and substantial HSA growth because of those HSA plans that are offered in the private exchange and because of that defined contribution structure. We see some industry predictions out there that the number of people that receive coverage through a private exchange could be as high as 75 million by 2020. Again, we're only about 6 million today, what's believed to be the accurate number. And given increased choice and the economic incentives that are there, we believe, and we are seeing that day, more and more employees gravitating towards a high deductible health plan with a health savings account. Now, talking about HRAs next, I really think that because of the Cadillac tax, they may resurge as a viable commodity for employers. And while it seems like the offer rate has almost flatlined over recent years with not a significant amount of growth or not a significant amount of decrease in the offer rates, really those offer rates remain steady, we think that there might be a little bit of an uptick over the next few years because of the Cadillac tax. and an economical incentive for employers that are worried about the total value of coverage. Remember, the annual maximum reimbursement amount is not necessarily going to be the amount that you use for the value of coverage. It's going to be based on, in many circumstances, a past cost method or average utilization. So a lesser amount will usually be included in the value of coverage versus the maximum reimbursement amount or the maximum contribution that you find with an FSA or an HSA. So, only time will tell, but that's what we're speculating here today. So to wrap some things up here and talk about some final comments here and bring things to a close, the summary of our findings based on our own survey, as well as comparing that with surveys of other industry leaders, really breaking down each of the three plans. I believe flexible spending accounts have either reached their most significant market penetration or are right on the line there. They're very close there. Probably not going to see much more than 90% offer rate, although maybe some very, very slight increases. HSA growth continues to skyrocket, and it really, we expect significant growth there. It's just how fast, and it seems like every year more and more and more employers are offering HSAs, more and more employees are enrolling in HSAs, and we think that trend is going to continue. And at least for the time being, we believe that HRAs have really found a niche market with certain employer sizes. Again, the smaller employers most commonly using an HRA to self-fund a portion of the deductible, keep the premiums low, but keep the benefit package rich for the employees. And for larger employees, really migrating away from traditional retiree coverage and using a HRA fixed dollar amount for those retirees to purchase coverage in the individual marketplace, including Medicare-based policies. Other summaries of our findings and research, of course, that Cadillac Tax that we spent a few minutes talking about, this is a major concern for employers. Oftentimes employers, especially those in a multi-employer plan, such as those plans that are dictated and run by a collective bargaining agreement, decisions on those health plans are being made today for future years. So we are already seeing employers start to make changes to their overall health benefit package to reduce or eliminate any potential trigger of that Cadillac tax. FSAs, again, we believe they're going to sustain a great option for employees. HSAs are going to surge, and HRAs are going to be a viable commodity. There's definitely some concerns with the Affordable Care Act, but we really do believe for these consumer-driven accounts, these CAs, that the future does look very bright. But the ACA is going to keep employers on their toes. Many people believe there's very good parts to the ACA. Many people believe there's very bad parts to the ACA. You can form your own opinion there as whether you like or dislike the law, but it definitely is having an impact on employer decisions. But consumer-driven accounts are definitely a viable option for employers, as well as employees in saving and preparing to pay for their out-of-pocket medical expenses in the most economical way because of the tax components. And these consumer-driven accounts are a key factor in the ability to tailor these plans really to the employee level, making a smarter consumer of medical care out of that employee. In the past, we've seen a lot of employers make decisions about their health plans and oftentimes sit on those decisions for several years. We just want everybody that's on the call today to be aware that we really think it's a great thing to revisit your consumer-driven account strategy. What you've done in the past or what you're doing today made, and you may need to make some changes, especially in preparation for that Cadillac Tax. So definitely think it's a good idea to revisit your consumer-driven account strategy with your insurance broker or whomever you work with in making benefit decisions. That being said, I want to just wrap things up and thank everybody for their time today. If you do have questions, go ahead and type those into the chat function if you haven't already. We do have a 15-page report on our survey, as well as comparing some of those survey results of others. We're going to release an advanced copy of that report to all attendees today, as well as provide a copy of this presentation to you. And if you do qualify and need the HRCI recertification credit and/or the SHRM professional credit, the PDC, we will send you a certificate of completion via email with this content within the next 2 to 3 business days. So I would say by early next week, you should have copies of the report, copies of the presentation, as well as a copy of your certificate of completion. If you have any questions, again, please go ahead and type those into our to the chat function that should be on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. I have our contact information on the screen here if you're interested in jotting that down. The Benefits Administration Department is the department here that oversees and works at an operational level with our FSAs, HRAs, and HSAs, so feel free to call that number. If you're an insurance producer interested in learning about our general agency services, please call that number. Or if you're an employer considering a private exchange option, I encourage you to call that number and or visit our website or find us on various social media websites. There are a few copies or a few questions in here. If a copy of the PowerPoint slides will be made available, absolutely. We'll get those out to you with a copy of the trend report. There's general questions about the Cadillac tax and whether or not that might change or get delayed. I can only speculate there. As it stands today, does not appear that it's going to be delayed, but the IRS is in the process of formulating and proposing regulations. And actually tomorrow is the deadline to submit comments on any input that you might have on how the Cadillac tax may be rolled out. So while it's last minute, you do have time to make any suggestions to them on the types of coverage should or shouldn't be included and potentially how they calculate the Cadillac tax. So encourage you to submit that information to the IRS. Not an employee can be enrolled in an HRA and an HSA at the same time, and that depends. In certain circumstances, they can be enrolled in both. The HRA is reimbursing only what we refer to as accepted benefits, typically just dental and vision. That be permissible, or what we refer to as a post-deductible HRA. As long as the HRA reimbursements start after the IRS statutory minimum deductible requirements, which is $1,500 for single coverage, $2,200 for family coverage. As long as that HRA kicks in after those deductibles, that would be permissible to also be enrolled in an HSA. Okay, just through here to see if we have any other questions. I appreciate all of your time today. Got a couple of nice comments here. Appreciate that. Several people asking about the PowerPoint slides. We will get those out to you. And also about the Cadillac tax. Is it the total premium for the major medical coverage that's included as the towards the threshold? And yes. So the total premium contributions made both the employer and the employee are included in the Cadillac tax threshold. Great question there. And how will the Cadillac tax impact FSA offering? I touched base on that a little bit. again, we believe the offer rate will remain pretty steady around that 90%, but the employers that are approaching close to those Cadillac tax threshold limits may reduce the amount of the maximum amount that an employee can salary reduce. So as it stands today at $2,550, maybe the employer sets that limit a little bit lower to reduce or eliminate that Cadillac tax threshold. So again, offer rates we believe will remain steady, but potentially that might be a viable option to circumvent some of those Cadillac tax amounts. Employer offers an FSA, HRA, and HSA. Are there rules around which account should be first? And the answer is not really. It's up to the employer to determine who's primary, secondary, and who's the third payer. So there are no rules that require one account to be used before the other. Great question there. About the Cadillac tax, isn't there another way to help fund the Affordable Care Act? I'm sure there's multiple ways, but this at least is one way that will be used to raise funds to really account for the various costs that are associated with the Affordable Care Act. Other Cadillac tax question: some families might have 5 or more children. Is the max counted per child, and will the tax be adjusted to include a larger family? Again, there's 2 different amounts. There's a $10,200 for single coverage, $27,500 for family coverage. So what we're hearing, at least from some employers, is they may change the tiering of their premium based on the total number of family members. So you may have an employee rate, employee plus 1, employee plus 2, employee plus 3, employee plus 4, and so on. That way, only those families that have several children would be the ones that are likely to trigger the Cadillac tax threshold. Would an FSA be reduced with an HSA rising? From our survey results and from our experience and conversations with our own employer clients, we believe that the number of employers offering FSA will remain pretty steady, but the number of employees enrolling in an FSA will decline because they will find an HSA more advantageous because A, you'd be enrolling in a higher deductible health plan, usually resulting in a lower premium. B, because the amount you can contribute to an HSA is greater, and C, because the amount of money that can roll over from one year to the next is unlimited. About why an employer might lower the FSA amount, but yet HSA would surge. HSA contributions that are made outside of payroll deduction do not count towards the value of coverage. Yet HSAs are a very valuable tool for employees to pay for out-of-pocket medical expenses and or save for future medical expenses. So again, we think there could be some reductions in the number of employees that enroll in FSAs. There could be some reductions in the maximum amount that an employer allows to be contributed to an FSA, and we see a greater number of employees that are contributing to an HSA outside of payroll contribution. Okay, I think I've gotten to all of the questions, and very, very great questions. I thank everybody for their time today. If you do have any additional questions that come up in the near future or down the road, please give us a call, and we will send a copy of the presentation, a copy of the trends report, as well as your certificates of completion for ARCI and SHRM within the next 2 to 3 business days. I don't speak to any of you soon. Have a great rest of the week. I do want to point out that I will also be giving a couple presentations at the 2015 Annual SHRM Conference in Las Vegas. That will be late June into the start of July. I will be doing one presentation on the Affordable Care Act and preparing for 2016 and beyond, as well as another Affordable Care Act presentation, but how it impacts COBRA. So any of you will be attending the SHRM Conference. Would love to have you as a guest and meet you in person. That being said, thank you very much for your time today. We'll get that email out to you in the next few days, and we'll talk to everyone soon.